Hello, I'm Lonnie. So if you click on this video, you might be a little bit confused as to what my Inktober challenge was. Honestly, I was kind of all over the place. So back in July, I decided that I wanted to do Inktober this year. And then fast forward a little bit, a few days before October rolled around, I realized that I hadn't planned anything for what I wanted to do for Inktober. And since I don't want to make this video any longer than it already is, I'm just going to explain my thought process throughout the whole video. So let's go ahead and get started with the base I made for this little animation project. Honestly, I was kind of running a little behind on Inktober because it took me about 2 to 3 days to kind of finish just the sketch of the main animation project, mainly because I didn't want to go in blind and not know what I was doing. So that's why I wanted at least a rough idea of what I was doing. Some people might think that's cheating, but I don't care. As long as I have a decent idea, it's gonna make the process for me a lot more easier and smoother. Especially since I started technically a couple days late, so I kind of had to catch up. And honestly, when I'm working on an animation project, for me, the easiest way I can do it is taking shortcuts. So you're probably wondering why the heck is my persona changing outfit in the 3rd frame when we're only 3 frames into the animation so far. So that's part of the idea that I had going for this animation. So originally my friend Zip suggested that we do Dress Uptober, which I thought that was a really great idea. However, I wanted to do something animation related for this Inktober, so I originally thought to do the ending scene for My Dress Up Darling, but you know, animating that with 30 outfits is going to be kind of a lot. So I ended up coming up with doing 30 frames for Inktober, and I was actually going to do 31 outfits, but ended up cutting it to 5 just to make it a lot more simpler. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the person that created all these beautiful outfits is known as unknownspy. I really wish I got to use all of them, but unfortunately I wasn't able to. Maybe next year. So, honestly, for this day, I think it was like one of my favorite in-between poses that I made for this animation. I honestly really wanted to use it for the thumbnail, but the arms and the hair kind of cut off a lot of the kind of flow of what I was going for the thumbnail, so unfortunately I did have to scrap the idea and did end up choosing a different kind of pose for it, but it all worked out in the end. But another thing I also decided that I wanted to do different this time was how I drew the eyes for my persona. So one of the things I kind of just been doing lately is kind of changing and experimenting in designs for my persona. And I don't know what it is. I just really love how the face came out with the eyes and the blush. I think the eyes looks really, really well with the blush. And honestly, I feel like I was kind of cooking with these first few frames. I don't know what it was, but I really, really, really liked this outfit. I know I keep saying really a lot, but for some reason in my brain, it's just like fireworks are going off, and I just think my persona looks so dang cute in this outfit. I kind of want to do an outfit inspired by this for my persona for special occasions and stuff like that. Maybe someday in the future. Definitely would be inspired by this outfit. But another thing that I really enjoyed about working on this project was, so instead of doing the usual ponytail that I have my persona in, I did her hair down so that you can kind of see the hair movement a bit more when it's down instead of the swinging ponytail like I usually do. I also really like how the bangs kind of flow back a little bit because, you know, with the movement of the posing, it's kind of pushing the hair back a little bit, and I don't know, it kind of looks really cute to me. Okay, so since I'm lazy as heck, these next 3 poses, they were extremely similar to each other, so I just kind of took a shortcut and copy and paste a little bit. But you kind of see here, I was honestly really struggling with this pose, mainly because like the torso is like kind of twisted a little bit. It's like kind of at an angle, but then you also have the arms covering the chest, so it's like it's like a mystery what's going on behind the arms. So that's why I brought in a reference photo from the gnarly music video of Megan, so I can get a better idea of how that pose works out. So that's why I kind of just traced over Megan to kind of get a full better understanding of how that posing was working. I mean, I still adjusted the little posing a little bit to work better for how I wanted to look, because I also still wanted to show off the front of the outfit a little bit, kind of peeking through the sleeves of the shirt. But another reason why I wanted to bring in a reference photo for this posing, well, 3 posings, was because one of the things I really love about Cat's Eye, not only are they really good at their choreography, they're also really good at facial expressions. And that's kind of one of the things I feel like I struggled the most with, just like my art in general, is my facial expressions. So that's one of the things I kind of been pushing, at least for this pose. The rest of the expressions are kind of, I want to say, a little lackluster compared to this one, because this one I'm really pushing for that expression on the face. And honestly, I think I really did a good job at trying to express the same expression that the girls had. I mean, it's not 100% accurate to them. I tried my best, but I think it still came out really good. I kind of like how I kind of did the little zigzag on the nose bridge to kind of give the idea that like I'm kind of like scrunching the nose a little bit, but I definitely think there's room for improvement for kind of showing that scrunch nose kind of deal. I haven't quite figured it out. Maybe I should have pushed the eyebrows a little bit down a bit more, but it's alright. I'm still really proud of how this pose came out anyways. But another thing, since I think I'm a pretty decent fan of Cat's Eye. I like listening to their music a lot. I'm actually working on another animation of one of their songs, which hopefully I'm not gonna say when it will come out, because I kind of have a streak of promising stuff and then never delivering, so I'm not gonna promise. This time I'm not gonna promise, but hopefully you guys will like it. I hope so. And then you kind of see here that the main thing that didn't change for these poses was the shoulder, chest, arm, and face. The only like variables that kept changing throughout these poses was obviously the hips, the legs, and the hair. And honestly, this is another part where I had really fun with the hair because of the kind of push and pull of like, I guess, gravity for like all the hair stuff, if that makes sense. Honestly, I was kind of winging it, but I think it looked really good in the end. I think it's kind of funny watching like the speed through of this like person, because it looks like Shakira. Ooh, now that I'm thinking about it, since we're just talking about Cat's Eye, if you guys are a fan of Cat's Eye, like let me know in like the comments and like tell me your guys' like favorite Cat's Eye song, because I think one of my favorite songs of theirs right now is gonna have to be, I wanna say, Gabriella. Anyways, back to the speed drawing. I think if I remember correctly, when I started just the basic sketch, I came up with I think like 5 main poses, or was it like 6 or something, of what I wanted to do for like the animations. And then I made the in-betweens after that to kind of figure out the transition from the one pose to the next pose. And I think when I was making this transition scene, well, not transition scene, in-between pose, I guess, I was just like, man, what the heck am I gonna do with the arms? Because realistically, the arms could go different kind of directions and stuff like that, but I kind of wanted to be not repetitive, even though the arms are up for most of the times. I kind of want to, I guess, like make it feel like the arms are moving differently every single time the arms are moving, instead of like, oh, the arms are just moving with the body. I wanted the arms to move on their own, kind of have their own flow of movement, if that kind of makes sense. Like they're not flowing, like they're kind of have their own mind compared to the body. I want to say that this pose was another pose that I kind of struggled with, mainly because the hands, well, I guess more so the forearms, are kind of like facing the camera, so you can't exactly see the whole like forearm, and it's like kind of like mainly covered by the hands, so it almost looks like the forearms kind of like disappear. And that's like kind of the poses that I kind of struggle the most with, because like for some reason in my mind it doesn't seem like the forearm is like there. It's like I'm just like cutting off the forearm, so it's a little harder for me to kind of make it believable like the forearm is still there. So that's also kind of why I used the like hands to kind of help cover it up. I also kind of gave up on the hands here too, because this is also in between frames, so it doesn't really matter. But I say the one thing that does matter is that hair flip though. And now we're getting into the forgotten detail montage. And wouldn't you believe it, we are finally on a different outfit for this animation project. Honestly, kind of the one thing I kind of regretted for making this animation was that I felt like I didn't split up the amount of time that the outfit was like, well, I regret the spacing that I put the outfits in, because like the first outfit, it had like about 10 frames. Then there's some other outfits that only got like 2 to 3 frames, which honestly wasn't pretty split up evenly, which also was like my fault, but I was also such in a rush to get this project done. I didn't fully realize the pacing for it, and I kind of mess up on that part. But you know, it's okay. Another thing that I kind of felt like I really missed the opportunity to do for this was, since this is what I call the Jax pose, I totally missed the opportunity to do Pomni's outfit, which I didn't think about till after I finished making this section. And you know what? That's completely fine, because honestly, I mean, I probably could just change these colors into Pomni's colors and it probably would have done the same thing, but I just kept it the normal colors for now. Maybe one day I'll go back to it and just change it to Pomni's colors, because I think that'd be really cool. And honestly, back to the topic that I was talking about earlier for Cat's Eye, the main thing I struggle with is the expressions. So kind of comparing this to like the original picture of the Jax, I don't know how. Well, I think the main thing that I struggle with for this expression was that you can kind of tell in like the expression, he's kind of like a sly guy. Like, it's really hard for me to describe this expression, but like comparing that expression to how I drew it on my persona, it just seems like she's like more so happy, and she's not exactly pulling off the Jax smile, I guess. But I guess that's also a little bit harder to do, because like I guess you can say my character's face is more anime-esque compared to the 3D cartoon form Jax's, so it could also just be a loss in translation there, or just my inability to fully encapsulate Jax's facial expression. That's also a very high possibility, but it's something I'm going to keep practicing on. Or I can say it's just in character and I'm just really bad at like making facial expressions. You know, I can probably just, you know, stick with that, because like I feel like I have a hard time like expressing like my emotions in my voice. Like listening through like my recordings and stuff, I feel like I'm so monotoned, and every time I try to put effort in like adding more characteristics to like my voice and like facial expressions, I feel like I don't really get anywhere. So I'll just say it's like my own personal character trait. And I think definitely for day 15 through 17, more like in between frames and stuff, I think that's definitely where I struggled the most, especially with this pose. It was so hard for me to kind of like figure out. You can kind of see me like going back and like erasing and redrawing and stuff. It's like that like crunched up pose of like, it's like I forget what it's called. It's like you're like springing down right before the launch. I know what it is. I just, for some reason off the top of my head, I just can't remember right now. But it's like, now that I'm looking at it now, I feel like I definitely could have worked on those proportions a lot more. Definitely don't like how the hip ribbons are looking. It's kind of making it look a bit off. But you know, that's okay because part of that actually gets cut off. You can't really see it in like these clips, but I have like a little space around the actual frame where I can do like, it's like standard for like normal animations to kind of have that extra space towards all around the edge of the frame. Just, I don't know, it's just really useful, I think. But there's gonna be like, in the end, there's gonna be parts that are kind of just like cut off completely. But I really had to power through this section. I was just like, man, this part is like so hard and like frustrating. I mean, the only part I actually really enjoyed was the hair for some reason. It's always going to be the hair that I enjoy the most. I think the other thing was when I first was doing it, I just drew on the stripes pretty straight. And then I kind of thought about it before I started doing the line art for it. I was just like, well, realistically, when the body is bending like that, the fabric isn't going to be straight lines. They're going to be wrinkled. So obviously I have to give those lines on the torso of the outfit. I have to make them a little zigzaggy a little bit to kind of like, I guess, reflect that there is like fold there. That's another thing I'm trying to work on, is like expressing 3D form in a 2D way, if that makes sense. I guess I'm trying to make my 2D drawing look like it has a sense of three-dimensional space. It's not just like completely flat and there's actual like life to it. Sorry if I'm like saying like a lot. It's just like my default when I have to talk a lot is saying like a lot. And but I think this outfit is probably gonna be my second favorite. And so now we are on to the third outfit. Yippee! Oh, we're finally here at the third outfit. I think when I started working on this section right here of, I'm kind of like jumping and like holding my hands out like claws. This is actually the very first pose that I started off with. And this pose is actually inspired by one of the poses from the My Dress Up Darling Season 2 ending, I believe, from the Kawaii song, where she's turning around in her little vampire outfit and she's just like holding the little clawed hands and stuff. And so that's kind of like where I got the idea for this pose, at least. It's not 100% a reference, but it's kind of similar, and I definitely wanted a little bit of My Dress Up Darling in here, especially since I was inspired a lot from that to kind of make this video, especially this Inktober clip. But honestly, when I was making this part of the video, I kind of forgot to do the wings at some point. You'll see me go back later and draw them back in, but I don't know what it was. The wings were really complicated for me because they kind of like wrap around the arms, but my problem is that my forearms are up, so they kind of cover that main part that we're trying to get to. And another thing that I didn't really address earlier is that when I got further into making these video, I decided that I'm just gonna kind of jump in and do all the line art first for every single frame that I wanted to do, because I figured it would be a lot more easier for me to get the hard stuff done first, because I can get the line art done a lot faster than I can get the sketching done. I think the sketching is the part that takes me the longest, because that's when I'm trying to figure out all the little details and stuff. As to where line art, I don't really have to think too much about it. Same for coloring. I just use the paint drop tool and call it a day for that, honestly. but I think this outfit is like super cute. Honestly, I would wear it if it was a Halloween costume, but also this little expression I tried really hard to exaggerate. Maybe I exaggerated it a little too much, but I also think it was cool. So it doesn't look like it, but since I kind of chop up the footage here a little bit to kind of group up the sketching and line art and colorings so that it kind of make chronological order, it kind of like makes more sense that way, so you can kind of get a better understanding of what I'm doing. But realistically, I'm actually doing the sketching first, and then you can kind of, the one thing that kind of you can't really tell from this is that I actually forgot to draw in the little bats, and that's kind of one of the things I actually did last. And I don't know what it was, but like when I was drawing on those little bats, the only thing I could really think of was just Batman. And I ain't got no problem with that. Batman is like one of my favorite superheroes. So when I was drawing those bats the whole time, I was just like, man, I'm just basically drawing the Batman logo because that's all I really know how to draw a bat. Alright, and now we're on to the next outfit. Yay! I honestly not 100% sure what outfit this is, like if it's like based off of anything, because like I feel like the last outfit was definitely kind of like giving me vampire vibes with the bats and stuff. I feel like this one's kind of giving me a little bit of like pop star siren kind of thing. I'm not 100% sure, that's just the vibes that it's giving me personally. But I actually really like all the subtle details. It feels like it's really detailed, but it's kind of like not at the same time, because like the clown one that we did earlier, that was definitely a lot more details. I think the hardest thing for me was doing the stripes on the top part of the, I guess, the straps, I want to say. Because they're like such small little space, it's like hard to fit them in there. But honestly, my favorite part was doing the gradient colors for this outfit. I really love the purple and black color. They go really, really well together. And since we got a lot of time for this portion, I kind of want to tell a little story, even though it doesn't kind of go with this outfit, but it is a little Halloween story. It's not a good enough story for me to tell in like a video, so I can kind of tell it here. So this was back when I was in high school, and I decided that I wanted to dress up as Paige from Voltron. And so I had like the full-on Paige uniform in like her main armor outfit, and when it came time for Halloween, I think it was Halloween, I don't fully remember, but my high school hosted a Halloween dance every single year. I believe I went every single year, and I had a lot of fun going to those dances. However, this time it was my senior year. One of the things that they like to do is have a haunted like maze at the dances and stuff, so we'll go through the mazes and stuff, and there's like students like volunteering, helping out with the maze, trying to make it more scary and stuff. So I'm like going through this maze, and there's just like a bunch of like freshman boys who are like there, and they're kind of just like, they don't give the very good vibes. They kind of seem like troublemakers and stuff like that, and they talk directly to me, and they're just like, "What are you, Buzz Lightyear?" And then for some reason in my head, I'm thinking, haha, I'm like this cool senior, so I'm just like, but I don't remember what I said word for word. I think I definitely said something along the lines of, "What the fuck? I ain't like Buzz Lightyear, you guys." Just like, "No, I'm fucking Paige." And then both of those boys, they like look at each other, and they look back at me, and they're just like, "Get her." And I'm just like, oh fuck, I'm about to get beat up by a bunch of freshman boys, because I don't even think that they realize that I'm a girl because I'm wearing a very short wig, and I don't know, I mean, I think I have a pretty decent feminine voice, not 100% sure, but when they said that, I was just like, oh shit. So the next part of the maze was that we had to like crawl through, so I like ran away from them, and I'm like crawling through this like tiny space as fast as I could so I can get away from those guys, because I was like, that did not turn out how I wanted it to go. And then I told my friends I almost got beat up by a bunch of freshmen, And if you're wondering, some of my friends were like already ahead of me. I was like the very like last one in like the back of the line, so it took me a bit to catch up to them because I actually ended up talking to those guys. So that's why there was like a small delay, but I think we did end up telling the teacher. I don't fully remember. I don't think they got in trouble or anything, but it was just like, of course that's something I just go off and do, almost get beat up, but also I probably could have took them because they were really small for freshmen. I hope you guys kind of enjoy that little story real quick with my almost traumatic night. It wasn't traumatic at all, but it could have ended up badly. And now we're on the last part of the outfits, I want to say. It's the last of the unknown spy outfits before we get back into my character's original outfit. I kind of wanted it to loop a little bit, so that's why we go back to my original character's outfit. But I also really like this outfit. It's kind of very punk rockish, I guess. But it's super cute. The one thing I really struggled for this section was definitely the belts and all the little belt loops and little holes in it, because it's gotta make sure I keep that consistent. But I also loved the little hands, like the black to pink gradient for the hands. Those were really cool. I didn't really go for the claw look, mainly because I already struggle with hands as it is. I didn't want to make it any more of a hassle than I already do have for myself when it comes to hands. But either way, at the end it came out really nice and I really liked it. And the idea that I kind of had for this section for like the poses was that I was kind of like shrugging, like as if, oh, I don't know what pose to do next. And then it kind of transitions into the next part, which is actually the last like 2 frames for this animation, which is I go from shrugging straight into a dab because I don't know, I'm like cringe as fuck. And you know what? Like they say, sometimes to be cringe is to be freed. You know? Oh my god. I definitely had to go back and use the references for the head because it was such like a weird angle, so that's why you see me use a 3D model for it. For some reason it just couldn't click in my mind, so I had to use a reference for that because I just couldn't figure it out. But like as I always say, when in doubt, dab it out. I can't believe that this is like the last 2 frames. I feel like it's been quite a journey just to get this far into the video. But honestly, just a little fun fact about like my persona and like the redesign. I definitely like this shirt. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep it. I mean, if you guys like it, let me know. I'm kind of like still going through that phase of redesign, but if you do like it, let me know. That would really help me kind of figure things out. And now shading montage. if you made it all the way to the end of the video, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I know this was a pretty chunky video. I think it's the longest video I have done by far, and the most talking I've ever done for a video. I think I've been recording for like 4 to 5 hours maybe. It's talking takes a lot out of me, but thank you guys so much for watching. I had a really fun time making this. I think I definitely want to do something similar to this next year for Inktober, so fingers crossed I am able to do this. So unfortunately I wasn't able to get this video out like I originally planned. I unfortunately had some personal family stuff going on, so it kind of delayed the video a bit, but at some point I do plan on talking about it. But I won't ramble for much too longer because this video is already long enough as it is. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will hopefully see you next time. Bye bye!